walking on stage, I saw everyone was looking for seats and getting settled. Now that I have the lights shining in my eyes, I don't see squat. I'm Pat Mulroy. I'm the General Manager of the Southern Nevada Water Authority and the Las Vegas Valley Water District, and I am delighted to be able to welcome you to Las Vegas, an ever-vibrant city that is neither shut down nor sequestered. We don't do those kind of things in Southern Nevada. It couldn't come at a more poignant time and at a more critical juncture in West, especially for the West Coast and for the western part of the United States, to have the conversation that you're embarking on for the next several days around urban conservation. Unless you've been traveling China, India, or in some other, in the outback in Australia, you know that the water situation in the western United States has gotten severely worse over the last several months. The prognostications don't look well, and the reservoirs on the Colorado River are at an all-time low. The challenges facing urbanites up and down the basin, all over the West, and in many other water-challenged areas, cries for a need for innovation around water conservation. We know, and we've pioneered it now for many years, that we know that innovation and cultural change around urban water conservation are the key to our children's future. Think out. Prognosticators are saying that in several short decades, over 70% of the world's population will reside in cities. 70% of the world's population in small, relatively small urban footprints, relying on limited water resources through complicated systems and very much depending on the evolution and development of new innovations and new ways for us to survive with the existing water resources that we have on this planet. That having been said, I am encouraged when I see gatherings like this, where the best and the brightest come together, those that are thinking about tomorrow's solutions, and through sharing and through collaboration, move the development of this desperately needed technology and this desperately needed mindset to the next level. In that light, I couldn't be more pleased than to be able to introduce your keynote speaker here this morning. There's nothing I enjoy more than sitting on a Saturday, having a hamburger, and drinking a delicious Coors Light. That is my idea of fun. So it is particularly a pleasure for me to be able to introduce to you the Director of Sustainability for the MillerCoors organization. And it's an organization that embraced conservation a long time ago. Let me just share with you a quote from the grandson of the founder of Coors Brewing Company, William Coors, who said, "Waste is a resource simply out of place." He couldn't have said it any better. And here we sit 60 years later, and that philosophy is what drives this conference, and that philosophy is what drives much of the decision-making around the world. Kim Marotta is that Director of Sustainability at MillerCoors, and she's a remarkable woman. She's responsible for driving, implementing, and managing MillerCoors' sustainability strategy and the responsibility initiatives. Finding new ways to increase barley yields through more efficient irrigation in Colorado, in Colorado's arid St. Louis Valley, and the shrinking resource footprint of the company for Milwaukee Brewing are just some of the tasks that make up her day-to-day activities. Those duties take on an added emphasis when you consider the company operates 8 breweries, producing more than 70 beers under 30 brands, accounting for about 1 out of every 3 beers consumed in the United States. As the great-granddaughter of a brewer, he would have been jealous of those kind of stats. In her day-to-day duties, Kim works closely with the company's parent organizations, SAB Miller PLC and MillerCoors Brewing Company, to drive performance in these key areas. And for a company like MillerCoors, they are the essence of whether they survive and flourish as a company or whether they go under. Her hard work paid off in 2012 when MillerCoors was recognized as the Dow Jones Sustainability Index World Beverage Sector Leader, for which MillerCoors was a vital contributor. Before joining MillerCoors in 2004, Kim practiced law for 13 years. We'll forgive her for that. Specializing in criminal defense, and served as an adjunct professor at Marquette University Law School. She was recognized by the Milwaukee Business Journal as one of the top 40 under 40 community leaders, and she serves on the board for the Sustainability Consortium, Children's Hospital of Wisconsin Foundation, and the LISC Advisory Council. She was a former member on several boards, including the Foundation for Alcohol Research, Milwaukee World Festivals, and U.S. Bank Championship. And as if all those responsibilities weren't enough, and this one I can empathize with, she also is the proud mother of 3 daughters and a son. God bless her. It is my distinct pleasure now to welcome and bring on stage Kim Marotta.
Good morning. I'm really humbled. I don't think I've ever heard a nice introduction. I really appreciate that, Pat. It's really my honor and privilege to be here and talk to all of you today. I know so many of you in the room are really true stewards and experts and advisors on water conservation and water stewardship. So I just really think it's a wonderful privilege to be with you here today, be at this great conference, and be talking about such an important topic. So just before we get started, I know you might be wondering, why does she just have that sexy voice all the time? I'd love to tell you, we were playing the craps table last night. I won $1 million and just never stopped screaming. But I just have to apologize, just have a little bit of a cold. So I'll try to protect as best as I possibly can. Want to tell you a little bit, you might be thinking, a beer company. Wow, okay, we've had Dan from Pepsi talk to us before. We've had the Nature Conservancy talk to us before. I didn't realize that a beer company would be so focused on sustainability and water conservation. So before we get started, just kind of want to paint the picture about that beer company and who we are. Pat mentioned we have 2 great, pounding companies behind us. She mentioned MillerCoors, a great, a really strong belief for decades to the Coors family about waste being a resource out of place. And then we have the Miller Brewing Company, that was also founded by German immigrants and came over here to the United States more than 160 years ago. So great family traditions that came together as a joint venture in 2008 to form MillerCoors. And we're a company that, has 8 breweries, as Pat mentioned. 8 major breweries all across the United States. One of the very first things that we did when our joint venture came together was about sustainability. We had Coors Brewing Company that was really kind of in Golden, Colorado, and then out in Virginia. And you had Miller Brewing Company that had 5 breweries. But by bringing those breweries together, we were able to reduce our transportation costs, our shipping costs, and getting beer from our breweries to our distributors and to our retailers by hundreds of millions of savings in energy and water and fuel costs. So really, just the nature of bringing us together made us a more sustainable company. And when we talk about sustainability, we really start with great beer comes great responsibility. And it's really 4 words that have very important meaning to us. And when we look at sustainability, we look at it in 5 key areas. starting with responsibility. And with responsibility, that's what we mean about preventing drunk driving, preventing youth access to alcohol, and really doing what we can to binge drink campuses. And then it's about environmental stewardship. It's water, which we're really going to be focusing on today. It's energy, it's packaging, and it's waste. In fact, we're really proud, just this last week, our 6 breweries, 6 out of 8, went zero waste to landfill. So we take it very, very seriously. And it's about our supply chain, because if you're not focused on your impacts from grain to glass, it's hard to really create some substantial change. And then it's about people. And I'll talk about sustainability really being about the people, whether it be the farmers, the people in MillerCoors, or the people that we work with day to day to really make things happen. And then our communities and ethics and transparency. But as I mentioned, let's really talk about water. So for us, water's the main ingredient in our beers. It helps water our crops, our barley fields, our hop fields, our corn fields. It helps clean our brew kettles. It's used throughout our entire brewing process. And of course, it's a material issue to us. So I have this bad habit of trying to put the remote on the TV, but I have to put it back here. So for us, when you look at water, and Pat mentioned, it's a global crisis on water. And you look at the UN Global Compact, and it can't be a crisis that's only solved by non-government organizations, or a crisis that's only solved for communities. Let me know if I need to move the mic up in here, just going in and out, just let me know if I should adjust it. But we believe as a beer company, as a leader in the private industry, as a leader in the beverage industry, we have a very important role to play. We need to get involved and we need to take a leadership role. And when we do that, though, it needs to be a shared responsibility. It can't be a time when people are pointing fingers at each other or just looking for this group is using more water or this group is responsible. We need to come together collectively. If we're going to create change, we need to work together, collaborate, bring the best solutions, the best ideas, the best experts to the table, and really together to create some change. It's a shared responsibility. So when we look at water, we look at what are we going to do to ensure a secure future for MillerCoors, for our communities, for our partners, through water stewardship. So of course we start in our own house and we look at water efficiency. What are we doing within our own 4 walls? And then we go further, we look at our watershed assessments. In our brewery communities, what do the watersheds look like? Where are we at greatest risk and where do we want to work? And then we really want to understand our water footprint. It's not just how much water it takes to create a really great Miller Lite for a Saturday afternoon, but how much water does it take from the time you put the grain in the ground to the time that you're really enjoying that nice cold product. And then lastly, it's about our people. We're a great community, or a great company with a great history and great people. So what do we do to give back to our communities? To get involved in public policy, to make a difference in volunteering, and to make a difference in water stewardship. So what I want to do today is just kind of give you a little peek under the tent in those areas and tell you a little bit about what that means for us and the people at MillerCoors. So first of all, simple. Let's make more beer, but let's use less water doing so. So this is our own 4 walls in our breweries. And how do we get focused on that? Well, we do it through reusing, reducing, and recycling. And it's kind of an interesting story. We sat down, new company in 2008, so we had a great opportunity to set some goals. 2015 goals for sustainability at that time. And our goal around water, that time it took us 4.1 barrels of water to produce 1 barrel of beer. So we set a 2015 goal. Let's reduce that by 15%, and by 2015 get to 3.5 barrels of water to produce 1 barrel of beer. And let's focus on being as efficient as we possibly can. Well, I have great news. Just last month, our numbers just that we saw in August, we hit our 2015 target. We're now at 3.5 to 1 barrel of beer, or barrel of water to produce 1 barrel of beer. So we're ahead of our 2015 goal. But I want to be honest with you, it wasn't easy. And when we set that target in 2008, we hovered around 4.1. 2009, we got down to maybe 4.09, but we saw a little improvement though. Little is a big word there. And then in 2010, again, it's going really slowly for us. Bringing two major beer companies, figuring out how do you produce Coors Light in Milwaukee, Wisconsin? How do you get beer shipped all over? So how do we then now look at our efficiencies and our operations and really get focused? And what's interesting is the people. So we took a step back and we have a team that's called the Sustainability Improvement Team. And it's comprised of our top managers within our operations, or what we call integrated supply chain. And we have two global parent companies that own us, one being SAB Miller, which is based in London, and one being MillerCoors, which is based in Denver, Colorado. And we looked at the breweries in both of those systems. Breweries in South America, they're old like our breweries. They had the infrastructure, the equipment for 30 years. And we looked at those breweries and we thought, wow, they're very successful in water efficiency. Let's go down and visit. Let's take a look and see what it's all about. And when we went down there, we were wearing a hat, and we thought, for water, it's a tough sell. Energy is a little easier because you look at the cost of energy and you can see an ROI. But for us, we thought, if you're going to look at water, we're going to have to put special funds into a water fund. Because we thought 80% probably capital investment, 20% investment in people. We spent a couple of weeks down in South America. We flipped that equation on its head. What we realized in South America and what we took back to the United States is it was an 80% investment in people and probably more, 20% investment in capital. Because what we realized is that the people in South America, the people in the breweries, the steam fitters, the folks on the lines, they understood what it took to be efficient. It was part of their DNA. And when you gave them the power, you gave them the opportunity to bring the ideas, to make the changes, to put in short interval control, to take a look at that pasteurizer and say, wow, I'm looking at these cans, it looks like there's a little bit more water on top of these cans than typical. Let me stop, let me evaluate it, let me make some changes and correct that. Or this hose is always dripped, or this hose is always ran. Let me take a look at that. I'm in control, I'm responsible for this. Let me make those changes. And then we did other things. Our pasteurizers, we went to reusing some of the water in our pasteurizers. We changed processes. When you think of Laverne and Shirley, they watch those bottles go down the conveyor belts. But we often used a water solvent to help those bottles because you don't want them to bang up against each other and crack. We moved to a dry lube that contained no water, so we were able to reduce the water. Changed rinse times just for short interval control. And what we saw almost immediately, literally, our next month, is some nice reductions in water. And that was probably in late 2010, early 2011. And every single month, we've seen things like 8% over the year before, changes in water. And so we're so excited now to be at 3.5 to 1. Just a really great story about how people make a difference and people can make a change. Whether you're a brewery that's been around for 30 or 40 years, with an infrastructure for 30 or 40 years, but when you put it in the hands of smart people, great things get done. And then when we started to look, let's move outside of our four walls. Because if we're going to create some change, it's important that we're leading in our breweries, but we need to look at our own breweries and our watersheds. So we have the 8 breweries, and we did watershed risk assessments. We used the World Resource Institute KPIs or standards. We looked at things, what's the impact of climate change on these breweries and their watersheds? What are the size of the watersheds? What are the water rights? How do we source? Do we come from wells? Do we come from municipalities? What's the population growth expected there for the long term? We actually looked at about 10 years out. What's the agricultural growth and what's the industry growth? And based on that, we understood that we had 3 breweries that were located in either water-stressed or water-scarce regions. One in California in Philadelphia, one in Fort Worth in Texas, and one in Golden, Colorado. And when we understood that as a business, we understood from a business standpoint the value at risk. We wanted to be brewing beer in Irwindale, California until generations and generations of MillerCoors employees have gone through the business. And we want to make sure that we're good stewards of the environment. So we started to put in risk mitigation plans, both in our own breweries, how do we become more efficient, and then how do we work with our key partners in our watersheds. And I know that Waters of Crop, one of our great partners, Trinity Waters, is here today. I wanted to tell you a little story about that. We started first in Fort Worth. And we started with the Sands County Foundation and Trinity Waters, two fabulous non-government organizations, and started a program called WaterSmart. As many of you know, the Trinity watershed supplies 40% of the water to the state of Texas. That includes Dallas, includes Fort Worth, and includes Houston. Really important watershed. We have our brewery in Fort Worth. And we started really small, but we've learned with almost everything that we've done. It's a journey. You need to have a little bit of proven, hopefully success, or failure, and you learn from it. And then you move forward. And so with this partnership, we focused on the prices. Gary and Sue Price are cattle ranchers in the Mill Creek area as part of the Trinity watershed. They are fabulous stewards of the environment, have a very large cattle ranch, and I'm sure several of you are from Texas. We understand that if it does rain there, it rains hard and it rains fast. And it was really key to look at what we could do with native vegetation and helping keep the water out of the ground. So we worked with the Prices and provided some funding. And one of the key things that we did is we tested the vegetation. And we planted prairie grass, tall prairie grass, so that when it rained, we were hoping that was going to help keep the water on the ground as opposed to quickly running off into the streams and into the waterways. We also did some cross fencing. We did some other testing with other soil conditions. We did repairing buffers along the streams and the banks, and some fencing to keep the cattle out of going in and out of the rivers. What was really terrific in those really tough drought years that we're still having, but in 2010 and 2011, Gary didn't lose a single head of cattle, nor did he ever have to bring in any hay, because he was able to keep his ground so moist to keep his cattle fed just on his own property. And what Gary and his wife Sue have been so tremendous about is they continuously held public meetings with other ranchers, other farmers, because of course, if you're going to have some confidence in a program, you want to hear it from the ranchers, you want to hear it from the other landowners. And he brought people onto the property continuously and shows them what they're doing. And that partnership we were able to grow. And Texas A&M and a few other foundations and others started to join us. And then most importantly, Trinity Waters applied for a grant through NRCS. And I'm really happy to say that now we have about, over the next 3 years, almost $9 million in funding for that project. We have over close to 70 ranchers and farmers in that project. Texas A&M has put in 3 monitoring stations on the Price Farm in different areas of vegetation so that we can really learn how does water impact the different land and the different types of vegetation, and how do we do our best to make sure that we can keep it on the ground and keep it up and keep away from the runoff. So an exciting project. We're hoping we change water conservation practices, we change the mindsets, and we continue to grow. And if others in this audience are interested in getting involved in this or any other projects, I can't emphasize enough the idea of shared collaboration. Really, why I'm so honored to be here today is just tell you a little bit, a small piece about what we're doing, but hoping that that piece continues to grow, gets more people involved, and more people interested in partnering with us and our key NGOs in these type of projects. So as we looked at that in our brewery watersheds, we knew we had, really want to focus on California and Texas and Golden. Then we took a step back and we looked at our agricultural supply chain. And what's our water footprint from grain to glass? When we studied our water footprint, we realized that more than 90% of the water used to make a nice Coors Light comes from our agricultural supply chain. So if we're going to make an impact and make a difference in our water and water stewardship, we needed to get focused on our agricultural supply chain. When we started first in Silver Creek, and a great partnership. I'm not sure if anybody here is from the Nature Conservancy, but they're strong partners of us as well. And again, I can't emphasize the importance of having strong nonprofit partners. It's one thing, when you're working hand in hand, sometimes a nonprofit like the Nature Conservancy already has great relationships with growers in that region. Sometimes as a corporation, we have great relationships. So we can often play against each other to make sure that we're really growing these to where we want to go. So back to Silver Creek. So in Silver Creek, these are the Stevensons. This is Gary and Elizabeth Stevenson and their son and their daughter and their grandkids. So they are in an area where the Silver Creek Preserve, just a pristine area outside of Sun Valley, Idaho. We have a lot of barley growers in that region. We source a lot of great high country barley, really a beautiful area. But we wanted to look at some projects that we could do around water stewardship. And we started in about 2008. And what we did is a watershed risk assessment, looked at the watershed, and did a plan for the next 20 years. We did a landscape atlas, so that if you were growing in certain regions, you knew the soil conditions, you understood the landscape, and understood what was happening in that area. This is a graduate student too that also did some testing. Based on the projects, were we going to have an impact on the temperature of the creek? Would we have an impact on sediment and on runoff? And were these projects going to be successful? And I thought maybe it'd be nice just to hear it from the farmers firsthand. This is our first project, so we started in there about 2009, and I thought, it's nice to kind of hear it from the people that are making it happen.
I've been all over the United States, and there's no other super great. People that don't visually see this thing, they don't understand.
The Silver Creek Preserve is a preserve that the Nature Conservancy owns in central Idaho.
It's a unique creek. It flows through a high desert region, and it flows through an agricultural valley. And so people from all over the world in this community work together to protect this special spring creek, not only for the trout, not only for the waterfowl, but also for the working farms and ranches in the community that find this creek to be the lifeblood.
So we've got several projects going on right now. We're retrofitting a pivot. This is a part of the water conservation program.
We're standing in front of a 20-year-old valley pivot. We are going to improve the use of the pivot by installing hydraulic valves. So we'll have 5 different options for exactly when we want the water to come on and off. One of the best things about the project is that you can modify an existing pivot. Each time this pivot goes from one end to the other, it's using over 2,500,000 gallons of water. With the controls that we're installing, each time we'll save about 419,000 gallons of water. We plan to use the installation of this equipment on this pivot as an example for other producers in the area.
Partners like MillerCoors have made a difference for Silver Creek and are helping us shape a bright future for the creek.
When the landowners surrounding us hear that MillerCoors is helping, it makes them more willing to participate.
Nature Conservancy has contributed a lot to the preservation of this area and the farmland. As you can imagine, farming and subdivision really don't go together. And Nature Conservancy, by keeping the land free of subdivision through easements, has really protected the area from that.
The development pressure is so great here in the valley. People love to be right on the creek, and there would be houses all over the place. And along with that, you get into wildlife impacts with roads, and it would just be a very different place.
And then Nature Conservancy is very important to me and my family in the valley. It addresses things like it. And I want to keep it that way.
So that I saw the lights, now that the lights are down, I can apologize that so many people are standing in the back. I'm really informal, so if you want to, there's a whole bunch of room up here on the right in the front. If you want to make your way, don't worry about it. Just come on in and be comfortable. But so I thought it's really neat to kind of get a chance to see it from the growers and from this standpoint. Each one of those growers are some of the pilot projects that we started. And after we had a little bit of success with those growers, we talked about those pivots. I know we're talking about urban, but in that area in Idaho, those pivots are huge. And traditionally, they turn them on in March, and they rotate back and forth until October until they're turned off. And so what we knew is that we took some of the practices that we did with Cindy Mann and her farm, and some of the practices with Bill Molyneux, we saw right at the end. So we were trying different things on different farms. And we put it on one farm and build a showcase farming farm. We might be able to create something that we could then replicate throughout our entire supply chain. So the Stevensons said, we'd be willing to try it. This is a picture of end guns. In this area in Idaho, most of the farmers still have their end guns on their pivots. So as you're rotating and those end guns are shooting out, this area, they actually grow their barley for us in rectangular crops. and the pivots go in circular motion. So as you're trying to get the water out to the corners of the crops, most of it's evaporating before it's getting there. So it's unlikely that we're growing or going to buy the barley in those corners anyway, because it's not meeting our high quality standards. So the first thing they did, and if there's some growers in here, you know that irrigation, enzymes, farming is so part of your business, your heart, your family, that when you change something, it's really a risky opportunity. So they said, well, we're going to turn off our end guns on 2 of our pivots. We'll try it and see what we can do on water savings, energy savings, but I hope we still get the yields that we'd like to see. And then we also took their pivots and we lowered the sprinklers to the ground, again, to help with evaporation. And then the soil in that area tends to be a little bit gravelly, and so we retrofitted the nozzles to help get some of the sediment and help make sure that we're getting a good flow. And then lastly, we put in variable rate irrigation. As I mentioned, the pivots turn on in March and off in October. They go over waterways. They're on when it's raining. It's on when the ground is moist. It's on when you're going over all different soil conditions. So by putting in the variable rate irrigation and a GPS system, now the farm manager, Gary Beck, gets notice, the pivots stop at midnight and nobody's there to kind of rotate it, make it go back, so you can turn it off. Or you can make sure to stop and start it at different rates of watering depending upon the soil, depending upon the needs. And in our 2 years, in 2011 and 2012, we saved over 270 million gallons of water on the Stevenson farm. And just to put that in perspective, that's what we, MillerCoors, would use in one of our large breweries in a 2-month period. We also reduced their energy by 50% on that farm, and we had the best yields those 2 years that we've had in the last 10 years. So we were really excited about the opportunities. We haven't seen the 2013 numbers yet, but we're hopeful. They've now turned off the end guns on all of their pivots and have put variable rate irrigation in and other great conservation practices. So what we've done then in Idaho, that's in the southeastern part of the Silver Creek. We started to share the story with other water users and others that work within their agricultural supply chain. And in farming, our barley growers rotate crops. So in this area of Idaho, many times what the growers are also growing is wheat. And when we started to map it out, we realized our barley growers are also growing wheat for General Mills. And so we started a small partnership, just for getting it going. Literally, we started in July, held some meetings with our mutual growers. And what we're doing is we are working with Field to Market and putting in a database system so that we can better track or more accurately track water use, energy use, fertilizer, nutrient use. And we're sharing this data because our growers, it's one grower, 2 different large supply chains, and really looking at what that might be. We're putting the information in right now in October and November and continuing to recruit other barley growers and wheat farmers in the project till February. So hopefully we'll have some great things to report there. But again, that power of collaboration. So then when we finished the Showcase Barley Farm, we realized, well, let's look at our entire agricultural supply chain and let's look at where our biggest risks are. And we did a watershed risk assessment. We source barley in the United States from 4 states: Colorado, Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana. And this is a baseline water risk for those growing regions in 2011. And then we did the same watershed risk assessment that we had done in our brewery communities. And this is what it looks like projected out to 2050. And so 3 of our regions, one in San Luis Valley, Colorado, one in Huntley, Montana, and one in Whirlwind, Wyoming, make up more than 50% of our barley growing regions and our barley growers. And we realized that we've got long-term risk of quality and quantity of water in those regions. So what we've been working on just this year is extending our partnership with the Nature Conservancy to those 3 regions and taking the best water management practices from the Showcase Barley Farm and trying to implement them in different climates, different soil conditions, different irrigation, and learning as we're going. So we really have focused first on San Luis Valley, Colorado. This is an area of really big concern for us. We have this great opportunity because we buy direct 70% of our barley We buy directly from our growers, about 850 different growers. It's part of the Coors family legacy. MillerCoors, in fact, taught many of these growers how to actually grow barley, including the Stevensons back up in Idaho. But when you look at San Luis Valley, it's in the southeastern part of Colorado, just outside of New Mexico. It's a desert-like condition. They get 7 inches of rainfall a year, less than the city of Phoenix. But they have an abundance of snowmelt and snowfall, or snowmelt. So it hasn't been an issue for them for some time. Because all you know much better than me, Wisconsin girl, snow melt has been an issue these last 5 years. So they're really facing a substantial drought. So we did in Colorado, look at it county by county on watershed risk, on how much are we sourcing and what's at the value at risk here. Oops, sorry. And we started meeting with our growers and talking to them. What was interesting, the first thing we heard from our growers, get involved, work with us. You know, they have sub-districts in San Luis Valley, but we want you to be a part of the conversation in the course. Help us lead, help us, look for solutions with this problem. So we immediately started partnering with the growers, the conservation districts, NRCS, and other key stakeholders in the valley. And then we have our own farm there. So what we did just this last growing season is what we're calling a barley final irrigation study. A lot of times when you're watering your crops, you need to look and try to evaluate when's peak season. And our hypothesis was that our growers probably got to peak season, but that might go another 7 to 14 days past. Just kind of hedge their bets and make sure the barley is really ready. So we took some of our barley in our acreage and we divided it up into 5 quadrants. I don't know if 5 can be a quadrant. Into 5. And what we did is we looked at barley and looked at it when it was more, soft dough, when it was hard kernel, all the different stages of really getting to peak. We measured the water, measured the energy, and then we harvested, shut off water at different time periods when they're getting to peak. So, tested it, is it that soft dough, we'll shut it off from that, fit for the acre, and then let's get to kernel, let's get to milky, and let's look at all the different areas. And we're trying to evaluate to get a sense of how do you better define and how do you better know when when it's really ready to harvest. The good news and the bad news, we had a heck of a lot of rain in San Luis Valley in August, which is great. Also means that our irrigation study will probably have to replicate it next year to see if we can get some good findings. But the Bennett study kind of look at it in a couple of years. But we're hoping once we perfect that, we can share that with other growers. The other thing, I mentioned that with General Mills, we're working with Field to Market. This is one of the, I can't think what you'd actually call it, like a spider map that you can share with your growers. So once they input their information, they can understand how much water are they using, how's it compared to the growers down in the neighborhood. It's all confidential, so it's not to the Joneses. But within your community, within your county, within that area. And so one of the things we really like to explore, if that's successful, we want to implement a really sound database with all of our growers, more technical. We get this information right now, but we want to really step up our game. And then lastly, some of the easy things, like sharing information. Farmers are so proud of what they're doing, and if we have the opportunity to share the stories, how they're conserving, what they might be doing in water conservation, talking about best practices, talking about funding opportunities, and being a convener, and doing that through newsletters, through, we call it watershed happy hours. It's basically a great opportunity to get all the farmers together, enjoy a beer, and talk about stories about water conservation and share best practices. But we're going to do through newsletters and through a lot of meetings with our growers now that the harvest is coming on. And then just our second part of it is to give a fabulous barley breeding program. It's been in place for over 30 years. And when we look at barley breeding, we're through these decades been looking at how do you actually produce barley variety that is more winter hardy, that requires less watering, that's more drought tolerant or drought resistant. And as an example, in Idaho, in the early 70s, it would traditionally take us about 135 bushels per acre. That's what we would get. 100 bushels per acre is what we would get in our barley production. Through the improvement in technology in our barley breeding program, we're able to breed barley that is more drought resistant. We now get 135 bushels per acre. So in that 30 years, In Idaho alone, just at state, we're saving 7 billion gallons of water just in barley production. So really making some tremendous strides in what we can do in water conservation. And then lastly, as I started with people, it all comes back to our people. We have wonderful folks that work in MillerCoors. And because water is so important to everything that we do, we designate September as Great Water Month. And we have people at all of our brewery facilities, corporate facilities, sales offices, regions, partnering with distributors, partnering with retailers, partnering with nonprofit groups, and getting out there, cleaning up our waterways, doing measurement on beaches, cleaning up beaches, all the different things that we can do to make sure that we're really giving back, being a strong leader when it comes to water stewardship. So that's our story for MillerCoors. We're really proud of what we're doing. We'd love to collaborate and talk more with many of you if you're interested in getting involved. We've learned it starts small, but we're hoping that through these type of events and other opportunities, we can bring more partners to the table and really make a substantial change. So I appreciate your time today. It's really great being here. I can't see any of you, but I'm sure this is the most lovely audience. So thank you.
Stealing her mic for you.
Okay. I can do that. They're really not. Hey, can you hear me in the back? Yeah. All right. We're going to move on anyway. I'm Doug Bennett. I'm the conservation manager for the Southern Nevada Water Authority. I really appreciate you guys being here. I really was intrigued by what Kim's message was about MillerCoors Brewing and how effective they've been. And I think it tells a message I was telling her that's vitally important about how we're all going to have to work together on this system. We're here primarily because of urban water use, but ultimately a lot of the solutions are going to come from realizing that these watersheds have environmental purposes, they have urban purposes, and they have agricultural purposes, and they're all critically important. There we go. All right. I can yell though. I really can. So I appreciate what Kim had to say. So I know some of you had a hard time getting here because you said I need to go to this conference in Las Vegas, and you convinced your bosses that you really need to go to Las Vegas. And now, sadly, you're going to go back and you're going to say you learned a lot about beer. Let me tell you, how many of you out there, this will be your first time at WaterSmart? That's great. That's actually one of the things we thrive on, is having new energy brought into the conference, because you bring new ideas. I think we're attracting people from different kinds of professions, and it's really what keeps the conference vital. It's all of you out there and the interactions that we have. But I want to tell you a little bit about why we're here, because so many conferences you go to are held because there's an organization and somebody has to raise some money and they try and fund the organization. All we do is host this conference for the purposes of this conference. Every dollar that you spent to get here or on your registration, Every dollar our exhibitors, our sponsors, our partners have put into this program is intended to make this the best program possible. Our mission is to accelerate the development and adoption of water-efficient programs, policies, and products. A lot of good stuff out there, and we're just not moving fast enough, and we hope this conference helps. We're not for profit, so it's run by the Southern Nevada Water Authority. The money doesn't go anywhere. Nobody's making a dime off of this. What goes in is what gets paid out to pay our bills at the end. We're interdisciplinary. That's been missing for a long time. Everybody was meeting in their silos. I used to go to conservation professional meetings, but I wasn't always interacting with plumbing engineers and irrigation professionals the way we should be. So there are a lot of professions in this room right now. It's pretty dynamic. If you've not been here before, or if you have, you realize that people only speak for 25 minutes. There is no 90-minute presentation or 45-minute presentation. About 80% of you like that short program format. The other 20% that don't are speakers who ran long. It's really affordable. We try to keep the price down. For the sixth year, the price has been the same. So we're trying to keep the price down. We're trying to manage costs. We're trying to make this accessible to you so you can be here. Accessibility is important to us too. A lot of people couldn't be here. A lot of people can't travel. A lot of people need this information, but they can't go to Las Vegas to interact with the rest of us. Every single presentation given here over the last 5 years is on our website. You can see any of them as PDFs. There's more than 500 of them. Every presentation given over the next 3 days will be on the website, usually within the hour of it being presented by the speaker. And so take advantage of that resource, but it's all free. You don't need a password. You don't need to pick up a CD with your badge or anything like that. We're just trying to get the word out. Let's talk a little bit about what's going to happen today, tomorrow, and Friday. So as soon as we get loose from here, at about 10:15, we're going to open our exhibit hall. The exhibit hall is down the escalators, down the hallway, up the escalators, and into the exhibit hall. I assure you, if you've ever been to a conference in Las Vegas, while that seems like a long way, it's not. There are some venues where you might walk a quarter of a mile to go from the meetings to the exhibition. So this is a 2-minute walk. You'll be unharmed. It's good for you. Walk off some of that beer you're going to have. At 11 o'clock in the exhibit hall, some of the speakers that we couldn't accommodate are giving poster sessions. So there'll be about 2 dozen presenters in there at 11 that are willing to talk about their poster presentation. At 1 o'clock, we'll start sessions. So your job is to find lunch somewhere in there on your own, here in the hotel or wherever you'd like to be. And then tonight at 6 p.m., we start running buses. Our belief is we like to keep you on this island to interact. We know that some of you want to go out and you brought your sequin jumpsuits and you're ready to go out and enjoy Las Vegas. So at 6 o'clock at the end, out at the farthest tip of the porte cochere, which is a word I learned when I moved to Las Vegas, which is that big canopy out in front of the hotel where the valets are, we'll have buses that will take you to the strip from 6 to 7:30 on the half hour. And then those buses pick you up at the same location, they'll carry you to the Bellagio and bring you back. I think running around 10:30 midnight or something. Check the schedule because if you miss it, you're going to have to find your own ride. On Thursday, of course, everybody needs coffee. And so the place to get that coffee will be in our exhibit hall. This will be before the session starts. The exhibit hall will be open at 8 a.m. and we'll have coffee and some continental breakfast for you there. At 9:30, our sessions start. At noon, we'll have the WaterSense Partner of the Year Awards, and many of you probably know the federal government shut down. And one of the unfortunate consequences of that was that all of our EPA partners are not at this conference. We will still host the awards, and I think it's a testament to the relationships that they've built in this industry that we're able to move ahead with that program even in their absence. So that's terribly unfortunate. Also, any sessions that were to be presented by EPA presenters are having to be canceled. I hope you'll subscribe to the little mobile website. It's not quite an app, it's actually a live website, but it works well on there because we send out alerts if there are any changes. But that luncheon is open to everybody with a full registration badge, and we'll be back in this ballroom. It's going to be a great way to recognize those who put a lot of effort into their WaterSense partnership status. Then at 4:45, more information about liquor. No. We have a wonderful reception in the exhibit hall. It's hosted by our platinum sponsor, Niagara. And I don't know if there will be blue martinis there, but I'm sure you can have a drink and share some of what you're learning with your peers. And at 6 p.m. we'll start running those buses again if you wish to go down to the Las Vegas Strip. If you don't wish to go to the Strip, but you want to know more about restaurants and things in this area where you can go, please visit our information desk. They have a lot of information at the base of the escalators. Then on Friday, our last day, at 7:45 in the morning, Rainbird will be hosting their Best of the Intelligent Use of Water film competition. It's always good fun. Many of these are insightful. Some of them are really funny. And Rainbird will give you coffee and continental breakfast again. So it's a great place to be, and I think you'll enjoy their film series. At 9 o'clock, we go back into sessions. A little later in the day, our tours begin. How many people in here are going on a tour? Right, I think there's more than 100 people at the conference that will be going along on a tour, and some of those tour tickets are still available if you want to tap into that. So the tours include the Venetian Hotel. I think you'd be surprised, much as you were about the MillerCoors story, of what these big resorts are doing in efficiency. So you get to see behind the scenes the fabulous Hoover Dam, the Las Vegas Springs Preserve, and the Wetlands Park. So please take note of those departure times if you're on one of these tours. And there'll be information out by the registration desk as far as the gathering areas. Then we're hoping some of you are staying over the weekend and you'll be able to continue on Saturday. There are some special events. So our partners with the One Drop Foundation will be hosting a walk for water. And literally they have closed down a portion of Las Vegas Boulevard and intend to have a fundraising walk from the South Point Hotel all the way to the Mandalay Bay Hotel. It's 5.7 miles. It's good for you. And it's good for their mission as well. We'll hear more about that mission in a little while. And then we're also selling tickets to the Grapes and Hops Festival, which is a beer and wine festival being held at the Springs Preserve. So if you didn't get on that Springs Preserve tour, you want to go have a look, I'll tell you there's no better way to see the Springs Preserve than with a glass of vino in your hand. So it's a really neat event where you also get to visit the Sustainability Preserve. I want to talk now about the fact that one of our big challenges in urban water efficiency is complacency. All of us this morning got up, and we pulled on a chrome lever and water came out, and we turned a knob and water came out. And one of the challenges that we always have in urban water is the fact that it's so readily available, and in many places it's so expensive, and it has been for generations and generations and generations. But that's the story that we know, because we live in a first world country. There are actually many millions of people that don't have that luxury, that absolutely aren't complacent. There are millions of women and children that spend several hours of every day trekking several miles to a water source and carrying water back for their family's daily activities. And while they're doing that, they're obviously not in school, they're not able to go to school, they're not able to participate in economic development for their villages or for their family. They're not working, they're not schooling, and I think a lot of you know that water's heavy. And so imagine a 5-gallon bucket of water, 5 gallons of water weighing 40 pounds and hauling that several miles. Most of us in this room couldn't manage that, and it's often being done by women and children. Now, to recognize this fact, the One Drop Foundation is working in those communities to try and help them develop safe water, to get greater access to water, and also to develop it as an economic resource, both for their societally, so that they can go to school and continue to develop themselves and their families. But they're also trying to help develop those water so that they can use it for other operations, like agricultural operations. So you remember, if you were here last year, we had some Cirque performers in the exhibit hall. And they were here to promote One Night for One Drop. And One Night for One Drop was a special event in March where they shut down every Cirque show on the Strip. And they all came together and they put together performances purely to promote this mission of providing safe water and accessible water for millions of people all over the world. And part of that presentation was a dance called the Walk for Water. And it features performers from 5 different Cirque troupes, and we brought them here today for your enjoyment. Please enjoy the Walk for Water.
the Senior Vice President of Cirque, the Resident Shows Division, and I get to work with those people on a nightly basis, and I kind of pinch myself when I see them doing a volunteer event like this early in the morning after they finish at daylight. So thank you to my girls very much. It's been fantastic. I work for Cirque du Soleil. I'm also a Las Vegas resident, and I'm a board member for the Cirque du Soleil One Drop Foundation. In 2007, the founder of our company, MillerCoors, was on the run-up to the 25th anniversary of the company, and while we've had a number of philanthropic activities we've participated in over the years, mostly focused on youth at risk, he felt he wanted to do something more, and we started doing some research, all of it pointed toward the huge water issues, the global issues of water. So he said, okay, this is where I really want to focus. And then when he came across the statistic that every 20 seconds a child dies somewhere in the world from either contaminated or lack of access to clean water, that's when the One Drop Foundation was born. So the One Drop mission really does strive to ensure that water is accessible to all today and forever by developing projects that significantly transform and sustain the living conditions of communities that we choose to work in worldwide. 35 to 50% of water, sanitation, and hygiene projects in the developing countries that are undertaken fail within 1 year after their completion. And when One Drop really sat down to look at why that was and how that was, our answer to the sustainability challenge is our unique approach to project management. And we call it the tripod approach. And that's water to survive, water to prosper, and water to inspire. Each project timeline is 5 to 6 years in length and allows the time to install and train and foster ownership of the projects and communities that we go into. So it significantly improves the long-term odds of sustainability of the project. Water to survive is the technical aspect of all of our projects, and that is where we work on basic elements of food and hygiene and cleanliness and the overall environment. The Water to Prosper piece that Doug mentioned earlier is our microfinance program, which is geared almost 100% towards women in the communities that we're in, helping to empower them. And we have actually landed on the United Nations list of top 20 organizations dealing with water in developing countries for this program because we have an over 85% full payback rate on all of those loans. So we're very proud of the work that we're doing with microfinance and piece of that so that people can maintain the work that's already been there and allow them to not just go and walk, as Doug mentioned, hundreds of thousands of miles every day, literally around the planet. We calculate all the people that are walking to find water to live. So that's a big piece, a big component of that. And then really the third component, which is truly unique to One Drop, and is because of the association with Cirque du Soleil, is our popular education component, which is the Water to Inspire. And we use local theater and puppets and dance and multimedia where we can talk about the taboos surrounding water and access to water in those communities so that people leave with a greater understanding of what it is that they're doing and how it can help transform their lives. So they go from being very vulnerable to people that are completely proud and independent in their local communities. The transformational path that we have is clear with this approach. With improved access to water, the source of life and prosperity rises. There are significant improved health conditions due to food security, income generation, savings, and jobs that people have greater economic power. And with the change in behavior and greater community mobilization, they get a much better understanding of water and sanitation practices, and this all results in sustainable economic and social empowerment. One Drop success really is fostered by developing strategic alliances and collaborating with like-minded local, regional, and international organizations. We do not walk into a community or into a country all on our own thinking that we're going to solve the problems for ourselves. It really is the takes a village approach. We build efficiency in the sector by leveraging existing expertise, resources, and networks. And the tripod approach really ensures high sustainability while strategic partnerships deliver high impact. One Drop has sustainably changed and transformed the lives of 300,000 people so far in the projects that we've had going. And our goal is by 2017 to have that number reach 1 million people or beyond. We have international programs in Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Haiti, and India, and the most recent project that we started in Western Africa is in Burkina Faso. But aside from the international piece, which is critical really for people around the world, we feel, as Doug mentioned, that we have to continually strive to ensure awareness of water issues that we face right here in our own communities. The fact that we live in a desert doesn't seem to really resonate with a lot of people here. So we feel part of the mission of One Drop is to get the word out about that this is not a renewable resource, that it is a precious commodity. And we need to continue to support water-related educational and awareness programs, such as the ones that Southern Nevada Water Authority has put out. Earlier this year, One Drop announced that we were giving $1 million to the Springs Preserve so that we could ensure the ongoing effort that they have to support water conservation and sustainable living right here in Las Vegas. Obviously, Cirque is very connected with Las Vegas. We first came here in 1992. This is our 20th anniversary year. We had a small show in the tent behind the garage, and now 20 years later, we have 8 shows up and down the strip. So if you have those evening suits, I can tell you exactly where you need to go to play and party. But we have 1,800 employees here, and we have been a really good community partner over the years. We've donated in excess of $20 million to cultural and social programs. We have established families here. We're part of the Vegas community, and we care about what happens here. And even though we live in the desert, Vegas has made terrific progress in the past years to improve water usage. And I know that some of you may have heard these statistics, and I know that Southern Nevada Water Authority puts them out all the time, but we are a firm opinion that they are always there repeating. So a couple of great stats. The resorts that we have here in town that employ hundreds of thousands of Nevadans consume only 3% of the community's water supply here in Las Vegas. Southern Nevada also recycles almost 100% of the water that is used indoors. And in a typical mega resort that we have, like the one that we're in here, the beverage and cooling towers actually consume more water than the water features, swimming pools, and landscaping all combined. And in 2011, the Water Authority put out the statistic that we consume 36 billion gallons less water than it did a decade ago, despite the fact that we have 400,000 new residents in town. And it really is a testament to the ongoing educational efforts that they have in place, and we're proud to support them through the Springs Preserve to keep getting that message out. But we need help and assistance to continue the positive change that's taking place here in the Valley. And last year, I was here to talk a bit about our upcoming first global philanthropy event, One Night for One Drop, where we did shut all 8 of our shows on March 22nd. And for that event, with the live auction, silent auction, we had celebrities that came from around the world. We were able to put up like a focused spotlight on water issues locally and here in Las Vegas. We were able to raise $5.6 million that night. So once everybody saw the result of that, we decided that this would become an annual event. So our second annual One Night for One Drop will be on March 21st, 2014. Again, we will close all of our shows and create a one-night only show specifically dedicated to the issues surrounding water. And as Doug mentioned, and it was actually Southern Nevada Water Authority that came to us and said, listen, if you're going to be doing your annual walk, let's attach it to the WaterSmart conference because we're going to have a lot of like-minded people in the room. So on Saturday morning, starting at 8 o'clock from here, the walk will start. We'll be out there starting at 7 a.m. to register people, or you can go on active.com, look for the One Drop logo and sign up that way. Same thing with the One Night for One Drop. You go on onedrop.org for more information. So I thank you for your time this morning and allowing me to speak to you. And thank you for listening to our message about what's happening globally with water. And have a good conference. Thank you very much.
It was a stunning performance, and I really do appreciate those Cirque professionals being here this morning. In fact, a lot of you may not know it, but they were working on a much smaller stage than they normally do, so they had to adapt to that. From here forward, any of these events that you have questions about, any tickets that you're looking for, tours, etc., just visit us at the registration desk. And from here, we'll be opening our exhibit hall, so I hope you join us down the escalator, down the hallway, and up the escalator. I'll see you there.